investors are still believers, at least based on capital flows.
It's the third biggest category of investment in last year, 1.6 billion, and I think 61 deals. And the top category is solar, 1.8 billion, 111 deals. The
solar's been follow-ons too, so it's actually more dramatic.
Yeah, great point. So there's big capital going into the EV space and a lot of suppliers and technology. So I think it's, I'm betting it's a real game changer. I'm pretty passionate about this space.
From a policy standpoint, the state's very supportive. We'll continue. And people I know who have them love them. Their value prop is. I think you've got to be a pretty motivated environmental buyer right now, and I think that will, as battery performance improves over time, I think to get broad market adoption, they're going to have to improve their value prop, which I think they're on. The technology is on the trajectory to do.
Yeah, if you test drive a Fisker Karma and you have $100,000, they will get your $100,000. It is an awesome experience.
I'm happy to do the first one.
They're coming out with cheaper models, right? But yeah, now these cars are like no comment. They're awesome. When they get out there, then the public will see. Oh, okay. Now we'll buy it.
Yeah. I want to pick up on the second part of Steve's question, which I think, Daniel, you answered the first part about what was in the strategy, but I'm curious, as the other members of the panel, about what state policies would drive this sector. What would you be looking at? The state were doing something, the legislature now, or the new, whoever the new governor is coming in, what kinds of things would be important from a state policy perspective to drive the clean energy sector?
Be a buyer of products. Absolutely.
Yeah, in the transportation side, I would get just balance the roads, investment policy and the gas tax policy. I'm all for taxing more use of the fuels we want to get away from, and the auto companies, for example, are really innovating a lot on traditional gasoline engines. They're getting much more efficient, and the cars are getting lighter and so forth without sacrificing a lot of performance. So policies, I think that it's really interesting. You see these bills and this debate, and what I'd like to see in policy is the guiding principle be innovation. What policy will stimulate innovation? Because you're trying to push so many buttons with policy, and I'm not a policy wonk. Colleagues over here in Climate Solutions Pros, but I'd love to see policies that stimulate innovation. So providing a market does that. Putting gas taxes will stimulate people to look for efficient vehicles, and they'll do it.
Money always helps. The reality is that, I said this earlier, it's hard for a lot of investment firms to invest in the creation of new technology because it's a long-term play and it's got high risk. But government's a good investor in that. Put some money out there, some grants. We did a project in Prometheus over in Poland. We were there because the European Union had policy that made a lot of money available. And you could afford to take the risk of doing something new there, to take coal mine methane and turn it into LNG because there was money available to further their mission. That's hard to say that in a state that doesn't have any money that is cutting back, but you've got to prioritize at some point.
And Dan, you mentioned earlier the revenue neutral things. So I think that's a great message to send to the public. It's like, we want to create policies that aren't taking more money. Because I think there's a lot of fear in the public that are my dollars being used efficiently. So if you have a message saying, well, take that argument off the table, the policies say, look, we want to stimulate innovation and we don't want to raise taxes necessarily. We want to just shift where they are. And the public will say, okay, I can get behind that because that should create jobs, should create investment. And I'm not risking more of my tax dollars in the government. I'm not sure how efficient they are at spending it.
ask a
I just
question.
want to point out, Daniel, I think Daniel undersells his technology experience. He actually developed the Pacific biodiesel plant in Warden that we're now building as a food plant. And luckily enough, it was pushed down technology, it was proper technology. What happened to Daniel's idea, our idea, was that the fast food industry decided to switch to canola, no trans fat, which jumped the price of canola seed too high, which destroyed the model because there wasn't a policy to defend being able to sell enough biodiesel. So,
Yeah, it's a great, it's like, anybody who's been an entrepreneur and right done the highs and lows, but you build a business model around turning canola into biodiesel, and then suddenly you go, well, that first half of that model works pretty well, but the canola oil is too valuable to make French fries, as opposed to putting it, converting it into biodiesel. So, and again, but that was a zero technology. I mean, that was about $100 million deal. It did eventually get done, not as a clean energy play, but as a ag play. So, there was eventually an IPO up in Toronto on their stock exchange by folks who understand ag.
they're looking at, they're building conversion into it, to go back.
There's actually an interesting opportunity because the canola seed production in Canada is skyrocketing and they're going farther north.
Right.
I think they believe global warming will make growing season.
My remarks about
And but there's a lot of number 2 and number 3 seed that is not food grade. So there's still hope for biofuels.
So essentially, somebody's gonna make a lot of money off your idea, and all you've got is arrows in your back, is that?
No,
I hope this has been great, and it's always a lot of fun to spend a few minutes with a really smart group of people talking about a topic that's really important. So thank you very much, all. Actually, it will be on February 1st. Hey, I'm not done yet.